Teachers of all ages are quitting their job because of the behavior of Gen Alpha students. And they are citing that exact reason for the decision of them leaving the profession. Young Gen Z teachers are talking about the poor behavior of Gen Alpha students, and some of y'all are finally starting to believe us when it comes to how much we've missed the mark on raising these kids right.
This is my folder of crying teachers, and they are confused and frightened by the behavior of Gen Alpha. They're saying Gen Alpha is defiant, aggressive, disrespectful, and rude.
Having to teach and work with you guys as children has been the most traumatic experience of my life. They don't respect any authority. You ask them, can you stand in your designated spot? They're telling you no and shut up. They're throwing things at each other. They're throwing things at other people, other classmates. You say, can everybody sit in their spot? I don't want to. I'm not doing that. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're not my mom.
Like, I'm not even trying to be funny, but these kids are... I'm going to just say this. I teach 7th grade. They are still performing on the 4th grade level.
I'm a middle school teacher. I'm also 22 years old. And I will tell you, by far, we are doomed. Like, these kids do not care. Like, I have kids, all they want to do all day long is get high. Like,
I need to ask millennials, why are your kids so awful? And more importantly, why do you think it's so funny? Your kids cannot read. They cannot write. They are ill-mannered.
I've been trying to sound the alarm about Gen Alpha students and their poor behavior in their classrooms, as well as their literacy problems, since May of last year. But because of my age and how I look, every time I make a video about these topics, I'll get people that have never worked with kids or have never spent a day in the classroom as an educator give me lines like, well, you're just old and jaded. If you don't like it and you can't handle it, quit and find another job. Teachers that have been in this for 1, 2, 3 years are seeing it, and they are talking about it. Teachers that are veterans like me that have been in the classroom for over a decade or 2 or 3 or nearing retirement are also saying the same thing. Your children are missing the mark on discipline. They're missing the mark on education standards. They're missing the mark on literacy. They're missing the mark on socialization.
Okay, so if you're wondering who Gen Alpha are, they're the kids born from 2010 till now. And honestly, a lot of people are saying this generation is super rude. Teachers keep complaining about how disrespectful these kids can be. So today, we're going to look at some of the reactions from teachers and other people about these Gen Alpha kids.
To be a teacher in today's day and age, you need Messiah level of understanding and patience. And I just don't have it in me because I will kick your child. I will kick your child twice. You see, millennials and Gen Z grew up with this thing that we like to call consequences. But with the introduction of gentle parenting, these new parents seem to all be raising their own version of Kid Boo. These Gen Alpha kids are bad just because. I don't think there's any reasoning in their mind. They do it just because they can. Because who's disciplining them? Not their parents. Their parents will be like, oh my God, look how cute my child is. I'm like, that child is evil. That child is pure evil. You're raising Sukuna. Gen Alpha kids have no problem with testing your gangster. I've seen parents tell their kids to not do something. The child has looked their parents dead in their eyes. Pure eye contact. Staring them down and gone and done it anyway. They're like, do something about it then, pussy. Do something about it then. That's what I thought. You're not like that. That's how these kids act. And then you're just there looking at the parents like, are you just gonna let this slide? Like, me personally, on a personal level, me, myself and I would not let that slide, and I would put that child in a headlock. For the record, I don't believe in hitting kids, but there has to be a middle ground between passive gentle parenting and violence. There has to be something bang in the middle so that people aren't raising the Tasmanian devil, because your children are running wild, bro.
Honestly, this new generation of kids is just straight up annoying. Like you said, I've seen situations where a kid is told to do something, a 10-year-old kid, and the kid turns around and be like, Mom, I'm not gonna do that. I have my own personal life. What? Personal life? A 10-year-old kid has personal life. What personal life do a 10-year-old kid even have? I really feel that parents are contributing to greater percentage of this problem, because you think about it, how will a 10-year-old kid have dominance over the parents? This is not something to even think about. Like, it's crazy to think about it. I'm not saying parents should beat their kids with anything crazy, but at the same time, as a parent, you should know what to do, because there is no way a 10-year-old kid will be running the home.
I do also want to make something very clear in reference to my videos. This is Gen Alpha. This is like class of 2024 up. Everyone who's getting violent in the classrooms, everyone claiming that they all have a disability when they really do not. I'm not talking about people who have papers, because every time I say this, they're like, oh, what if I have papers? You're discriminating. No, we're not talking about you. Go somewhere. We're talking about the people who we say, please put your phone in your pocket. I'm not going to do that. Or what? Or what? Grabs chair, throws it. Jail. Y'all talking like, oh, you're doing too much to children. Okay. When that boy grows up and beats your daughter to death, you're gonna exclaim then. You're gonna be like, oh, Why didn't anybody stop him? But you were the same people advocating for his lack of impulse control 4 or 5 years ago. But when they don't get something they want, they get active, and it works in the classroom, so it's going to apply other places. Why don't you all know that as a thing? Like, why are you trying to baby every child, especially 15 through 18? Those are the ones that they swear they're grown. So start giving them the respect and the responsibilities of adults if they would like to be grown, especially when you commit crimes. I'm not even saying it when they're chilling. Gen Alpha is causing their own destruction. The same people who are cheating, bringing multiple phones in to cheat so they can be valedictorian in high school, are going to somehow make it through a STEM degree, but to go sit for that exam, what do you mean I can't have my phone for 3 hours? Because that's how long the test is, stupid. And then if you sneak that second phone in there because you think you have something, and one of the 57 cameras in the room, or the stick, because they'll check you like you're in the TSA airport. They do like the metal detector thing. When you get caught, they bar you from the whole profession. You can't do that anymore. If you spent $100,000 to get a BSN in nursing, you would not get your RN license at the end if you're banned from the NCLEX. They won't give it to you. That is why we are trying to warn you right now. But y'all don't want to listen, so it's going to be worse for you. That's literally all we're telling you. This isn't to have control. Y'all niggas are broke. Y'all probably won't even be able to keep a job at McDonald's. I'm not saying this for you guys to attack you. I don't care about half the shit y'all doing. I only pray for your success. But what I'm doing is warning you that this is going to be an issue. And I've seen teachers talk about this for years, and they are going at it. What do you mean you threw a chair at a teacher and hit her because she told you don't vape in class? What's wrong with y'all?
From what I've seen, I feel that a lot of kids will grow up to become bad adults, and this is something parents don't understand. They feel teachers are mistreating their kids, but they're missing the real point. When a child sees that his parents will back him up no matter what he does, he's gonna get spoiled, and I will tell you why. See this example. When a child misbehaves at school and the teacher raises his voice on the boy, then the boy goes home and tells the mom, "Look at what my teacher said to me today because of what I did." And the mom responds, "Don't ever try that again, because don't you know this is wrong?" The boy will behave better the next day at school. But if the boy goes home and tells the mom what he did at school and what the teacher and how the teacher responded or reacted, then the mom be like, "Who the hell is that teacher talk to my kid like that?" The boy will gain more ground. And for the father is getting more ground on something that is bad, the next day it's going to be worse than how he acted previously. And it's quite unfortunate that this is where most parents completely miss it out. And this is what they need to start understanding in order to save their kids.
I need to ask millennials, why are your kids so awful? And
I'm going to say something a bit out of left field, but hear me out on this one, okay? I blame gentle parenting. Okay, well, what it really is I blame the parents who read an article or two or like listen to a podcast and suddenly think they know how to gentle parent and then proceed to do it completely incorrectly. And we saw a really good example of this on the episode of the Kardashians this week that we'll get into, where Kim was just letting her daughter North be really openly rude to one of the designers they were working with for the Met Gala. I'm a Gen Z who nannied and worked in childcare for like 7 or so years, so I have a lot of hands-on experience with these nightmare Gen Alpha children. I could always tell which parents right away were attempting to rely solely on gentle parenting approaches. One of my biggest issues is the definition for gentle parenting on these big parenting resources. But before we talk about why it's bad, let's talk about why it's really good. Most resources say it's patient, calm, punishment-free, gentle parenting, evidence-based, and focused on empathy, respect, understanding, and boundaries. And don't get me wrong, all of these things are really important. Like, it heavily focuses on speaking to your child with respect and understanding, and making sure they understand their own emotions and decisions. And it all relies heavily on empathy, which is so important. I do love gentle parenting, don't get me wrong. However, you have to use gentle parenting along with other styles of parenting as well. It also teaches kids to set their own personal boundaries and that their voices should be heard out in the world. It's a very positive and uplifting style of parenting. But a lot of times these parents who wholeheartedly lean into these commercialized gentle parenting books fail at teaching a couple very important things. The first would be your actions have consequences, okay? We cannot just live a punishment-free lifestyle because that's not how the real world works. I remember I could always tell right away when I was nannying which parents were trying to use this approach because consequences for your actions was a concept that seemed completely alien to these children. One time, a boy who was like 8 or 9 years old was upset with me and he came up and he slapped me straight across the face. I had never seen behavior like this. And I believe the fight had something to do with watching TV. I took away all of his electronics, his iPad, his TV privileges for the rest of the week. And every day he thought that I was going to cave and give it back to him for some reason, and he was astounded that I held up these consequences for his actions. Another time, he and his siblings would often throw a massive fit when I told them they had to at least eat some of their dinner if they wanted to get dessert, because for some reason this family did dessert every single night. When I wasn't paying attention, they went and tried to throw all their food in the garbage. And I said, A, I guess you guys are okay with not having dessert tonight. And B, I don't want to hear it from you guys when you're hungry later because you just threw all the food I made for you in the garbage. Then they started complaining about being hungry later that night because they genuinely thought I was still going to give them dessert for whatever reason. And I said, no, you guys can go make yourselves some real food, but I told you there's not going to be dessert tonight if you didn't eat your first meal. And the more I set these boundaries and patterns, the less issues we were having with dinner every night. And it always felt really nice to hear the parents commenting how the kids were just genuinely behaving better. And this also ties into another huge issue we're seeing from teachers in schools who are just up and quitting their job after a lifetime of loving teaching, which is a failure of respect for authority being taught. Now, hear me out. I am all on board with if someone doesn't respect you, then you do not have to respect them, right? But naturally, when you go in at first, you should always, at least at the beginning, respect your teachers, respect your nannies, your babysitters, whoever. And I really like the way that this article phrased it. They said that 2 important things that parents need to communicate with their children is first, you are the center of my world, and second, you are not the center of the world. And they claim that gentle parenting kind of leans into that first one too hard and fails to communicate the second properly. And this is what we saw in that episode of the Kardashians this week. Kim was doing a really amazing job making sure that North knew that her voice was important and heard. But she was completely failing at using gentle parenting to guide her into seeing that her voice wasn't the only voice that mattered there. A more effective approach would have been to sit North down and tell her, hey, your voice is very important here and we all respect and are kind to your voice. But you also have to understand that other people's voices are important too, and you need to respect and be kind to their voices. And if you can't be respectful to us in the same way that we're all being respectful to you, well then we can't have you here. You need to treat others the way that you want to be treated. Because being at this fitting right now is a privilege for you. And if you can't respect the rules, then you don't get to have this privilege. Because realistically, North decided it was just way more fun to be rude to people. And if you don't have any consequences for these actions, then there's really no incentive for her to start being nice to people. Because to her, being rude was way more fun. And this would have been a great punishment that doesn't actually harm anyone, but teaches them real-world consequences for their actions. Now, granted, this is no shade to Kim. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and this may have been a conversation they had off camera. This was just a really good example we can all see live in action. I saw another creator who said it better than me that I forget the name of, say that gentle parenting has kind of failed to teach children their role in society because children are still children at the end of the day. Yes, your voice is respected and valued and you should be heard, but you also need to remember at the end of the day that you're still the 11-year-old here. It's for your safety. I remember there was this one kid I was having so many issues with, and one of my last straw was when we were at the park and I was trying to manage him and all of his siblings, but he refused to listen to me. And long story short, he ended up screaming at me and then booking it into traffic, almost causing a major pileup in which he wouldn't have survived. Obviously, I went home that day. I told the parents what had happened. They felt bad because they knew I did my best there. And I think that was the only time I had just straight up quit in the middle of my contract whilst nannying. Because some of these kids are just completely out of control, and I don't know how to handle that. I also just thought the title of this headline was really funny. Forget gentle parenting, just discipline your 1-year-old. But yeah, don't forget gentle parenting. It's very important. Emotions, empathy, your child being heard, all very important and good. But also just don't forget to teach them that their actions in this world have consequences. And they need to learn to respect people who are left in charge of them as long as those people are doing their best.
This explains everything I just said. Training kids right way doesn't mean you gotta hit them with anything crazy. But you do need to make sure you let them understand that every action has consequences and that the consequences can either be good or bad depending on the action.
So many people want to disparage the individual teacher for making that decision, saying that it's their age or it's the era in which they began their career, where they just can't handle this new generation of kids anymore. A few videos back, I discussed how Gen Z teachers and younger teachers that have just entered the profession are seeing some of these behaviors and they're alarmed, and a lot of them are calling it quits after a few years, realizing this is not what they want to do and put up with for the rest of their life. And I see so many people trying to say, well, they're just young and immature and they just don't know what this is all about, and if they can't handle the profession, it's good they get out now because they don't deserve the title of teacher and they need to let somebody else step in and do the job for them. When in reality, we have teachers like this person's mother who have been in the game for several decades, who knew exactly what they were getting into at the start, who had no issues up to this point. But now that they have Gen Alpha students in their classroom, they are more than willing to give up their retirement, give up their retirement pay, just so that they can escape the chaos that your children are bringing into the classroom. And what do people say about them, the older teachers? Well, they're just old and tired and jaded, and they needed to get out of the game a long time ago. They need to step aside and let some of the younger ones come in and do the job. And then you have teachers like me who were somewhere in the middle, who are in their 30s or 40s, have 5, 10, 15 years left in their career, who are also saying the same things. They're tired of dealing with the violence. They're tired of dealing with the apathy. They're tired of dealing with parents who are making the excuses and fighting them all the way through the process. They're tired of getting assaulted in their own classroom and getting blamed for it. So if you're going to sit there and blame age and era on the fact that a teacher just can't handle the job, which one is it? Is it that they're too young? Is it that they're too old? Because here's my opinion. If there are such a large majority of teachers throughout several different generations, from people in their 20s all the way through just a few years before retirement, are all saying the same thing about your children, Gen Alpha students, then you would think that it's not the generation of the teacher or the individual teacher, that the common denominator is you and your kids. Let me tell you something. A teacher doesn't just go 20 or 30 years into their career and then decide, I've had it. This is just not it for me, for no reason. You have to get to a certain point in your career where your mental health and physical health are so wrecked and in the toilet that you have to do it for survival. And any teacher that you talk to that is going to sit there and deny that there are increased issues in the classroom or gaslight other teachers for having problems and making the decision to leave are the kinds of teachers who made up their mind a long time ago that they're going to survive on a martyrdom complex and it would never matter the circumstances. This is not the only story that I hear of veteran teachers making the decision to leave the profession because they just cannot handle it anymore. It makes me incredibly sad because I hear stories like this from secondhand sources and from the teachers themselves of people that are nearing retirement age almost every single day in my comment section that said, I had to make this decision for me. And the reason why it makes me so incredibly sad is because these people made a choice a long time ago that they were getting into this job to help children because they loved teaching and they loved helping children. And the fact that they've gotten to the point where they feel like they can no longer help or serve children, and that the children have such a disdain for being there and having them as their teacher that they just feel like they're completely inept and useless, that's incredibly sad. You won't hear a lot of teachers who have decided to quit the profession that say they just quit the profession because they don't like teaching. Most of us have made the decision to quit classroom teaching because we had to do it to survive. And there's a ton of mourning and there's a ton of sadness and loss that goes into that decision. It's as if a part of our life has died. Okay, this idea that the kids haven't changed, the parents haven't changed, the teachers have changed. We're the only part of this equation that has shifted and evolved, and that teachers just don't want to teach anymore and teachers just can't handle it anymore is just simply ridiculous. It's a work of fiction. If anything, teachers have become more resilient because we've had to put up with more roadblocks and more drama and more toxicity, not just from the kids, but from parents and from admin and from the community and from our government. It's not that teachers just don't want to teach anymore. It's that teachers have had it with the bullshit that parents are throwing their way every day. And the fact that they're teaching their kids to treat them like garbage, to not care about their schoolwork, to not care about their peers or anybody else's feelings, to throw hands and get in fights with the kids and the adults around them just because they're uncomfortable and triggered. It's because these kids are being taught that because the world is on fire, that nothing matters. And so every decision they make is just a decision and it doesn't affect anybody else around them. Teachers don't just not want to teach anymore. They don't want to teach under these conditions anymore. And the most sickening part of this whole thing is you have parents verbalizing out loud that they are proud of the fact that these kids are making their teachers quit. They are proud to have kids that are breaking the mold and breaking the system. I'm sorry, but you should not be proud of having a child that pushes their teacher to the brink so much that they make the decision to give up their retirement. That is not a flex. Your 10-year-old kid is not a revolutionist. They are a 10-year-old with literacy issues, chronic behavior problems, and failing grades.
Shout out to all the teachers out there because they really tried for us and they're still trying for us. I just hope parents start giving these Gen Alpha kids the right training so that they will start seeing things from different trajectories and become better adults when they grow up. Thank you so much for watching today, and if you find value in this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it so that these Gen Alpha kids will see that they're not really behaving well and reshape their behavior, and most importantly so that their parents will know that they have a huge role to play in their kids' life. And also let me know what you think about these Gen Alpha kids. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you don't miss out on my next upload. That being said, I hope to see you in the next one.